Charles Oliveira recently defeated Justin Gaethje at UFC 274, and that has sparked a GOAT debate. Who is the GOAT? Is it Khabib Nurmagomedov? Is it Charles Oliveira? Well, in this video, I'm going to be answering that question, as well as defining the GOAT for every single division, women's and men's, from flyweight all the way to heavyweight. I'm going to be giving you the GOAT of the division, the runner-up of the division, and anybody else honorable mentions that I feel like is necessary to bring up. So, let's get into the GOAT debate. Okay, we're going to start with the women. We're going to start with women's strawweight. So, the GOAT in this division for me is Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So, she was considered the boogie woman in this division for quite a while. She racked up multiple title defenses and overall had the most dominating run as strawweight champion. We all know that Rose Namajunas utterly starched her when they fought, and Rose Namajunas again beat her. And then, Wei Li also beat Joanna, but that's been in recent memory. And Rose also recently had the worst fight in strawweight women's history, so that kind of knocks her down a peg, and that's why Rose is the runner-up here, not the actual GOAT. Joanna Jędrzejczyk takes that title, but Rose is the runner-up. Women's flyweight, okay, this one is pretty straightforward. We have Valentina Shevchenko, basically the only champion in this division's history, except for Nino Montano, if we're gonna consider that one, but we're gonna throw that one out the window. There hasn't really been any other ones besides Valentina, so... Okay, women's bantamweight, this one's also pretty straightforward. We have Amanda Nunes as the women's bantamweight GOAT, and the runner-up, I have to put Ronda Rousey. She's the one that got women's UFC on the map in the first place. She brought women's MMA to the forefront. She was the only reason Dana White had women's MMA in the first place. He thought she was such a great star, so that's why Ronda Rousey's the runner-up. But, we're going to ignore the Holly Holm head kick. We're going to ignore the Amanda Nunes starching in under a minute, so that's why Ronda Rousey is the runner-up. Amanda Nunes is the GOAT of the bantamweight division, and that's about it for this one. Women's featherweight, another very straightforward one. Amanda Nunes is the women's featherweight GOAT. I got the runner-up as Chris Cyborg, though. Yes, Amanda Nunes did utterly starch her when they actually fought, but I'm gonna blame that on weight cut issues. I think in a rematch, it would be a lot closer. One person I'm not including in the honorable mentions is Germaine de Randamie. Screw Germaine de Randamie. Cheater. All you gotta know, she's a cheater. Okay, that brings us to the men's divisions. For men's flyweight, of course, I have the men's flyweight GOAT as Demetrious Johnson. As a quick runner-up, I have Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo did defeat him, but Demetrious Johnson defeated him, and they never got the trilogy match because Demetrious Johnson left and went to go make piles at one championship. Demetrious Johnson's title reign is very, very slept on. Nobody talks about it, really. He racked up so many title defenses to the point where Dana White's like, yo, we might just scrap the whole flyweight division entirely. And then Henry Cejudo, he got a split decision win over Demetrious Johnson, and he racked up some respectable title defenses himself. And the real reason why Henry Cejudo is the runner-up is because he basically saved the flyweight division. If it wasn't for him, Dana White probably would have scrapped the whole division entirely, and they would have had Demetrious Johnson go to bantamweight, or he would have just left. Men's bantamweight, okay, this was a tough one, but I have the men's bantamweight GOAT as Dominick Cruz. You cannot escape the fact that Dominick Cruz is an utter bantamweight god. If you go back in his career, he's always been a bantamweight legend. He defeated Uriah Faber multiple times. He defended his belt multiple times. He regained the belt from TJ Dillashaw, who's considered another bantamweight GOAT. I mean, yes, he did lose to Cody Garbrandt, but I think anybody on that given night when Cody Garbrandt utterly destroyed Dominick Cruz, anybody would have lost to Cody Garbrandt that night. And that's why I have the runner-up as TJ Dillashaw. He defeated Cody Garbrandt twice, who defeated Dominick Cruz. He's also racked up some very good wins on his resume, and the title defenses. That's number one thing I look for. How many title defenses have you had? And the number two thing I look for is were your title defenses entertaining? If I just look at your title defenses and I see a bunch of decisions, split decisions, majority decisions, that's going to factor in to my decision for making you the GOAT. Okay, men's featherweight. Now we're getting into some controversy. I have the men's featherweight GOAT as Max Holloway, with the runner-up being Alexander Volkanovski. So you might be saying, Fins, Alexander Volkanovski defeated Max Holloway twice. How could you say that Max Holloway is a featherweight GOAT and not Alexander Volkanovski? Well, let me educate you very quickly. So Max Holloway, he has a lot of title defenses, number one. Number two, he utterly starches his opponents in most title defenses. And number three, he defeated the other featherweight GOAT, who's the runner-up, Jose Aldo. He defeated Jose Aldo twice, both in dominating fashion with no questions. Now, when Alexander Volkanovski faced Max Holloway, what happened? First time, okay, he won the decision. Second time, okay, he won the decision. Now, there is controversy regarding both of those decisions. A lot of people say Holloway could have won the first one. A lot of people say he definitely won the second one. So the only way to truly define the featherweight GOAT is for them to have the trilogy, and that's actually happening soon. So this list is subject to change. If Holloway wins, he's still the GOAT. The list stays the same. If Volkanovski wins, I will forfeit it, and Volkanovski will be the featherweight GOAT. No, Conor McGregor is not included in this. Men's lightweight. Now, the GOAT here, obviously, is Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's undefeated, 29-0. He racked up a few good title defenses, and in all of his title defenses, he managed to get a finish. A finish, mind you, against the top of the division. Now, I was very tempted to put Frankie Edgar as the runner-up in the lightweight division, but if you actually look at his title defenses, yes, he had a absolute slobber knocker against Greg Maynard, and then he beat him in the decision in the following fight, but then his other title defense was another decision. Now, the runner-up, the true runner-up, is BJ Penn. He had 3 title defenses, and in all title defenses, he won in dominating fashion, and the competition he fought was way higher than the competition Frankie Edgar fought. So in terms of lightweight GOATness, I got Khabib, then I got BJ Penn, then I got Frankie Edgar, then I got not Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is not on this list. He's not gonna be here. He's not. No. Next up, men's welterweight. So the GOAT here, obviously, is it obvious though? Georges St. Pierre, 9 total title defenses, not including his first title reign, where he also had a title defenses. So 10 in total, 9 in a row. He had dominating victories over Matt Hughes. He defeated Matt Serra, which was the only blemish on his record, and he racked up 9 straight wins. Yes, granted, 8 or 9 of them were decisions, and a lot of them were kind of snoozy, and maybe the competition wasn't the best, but 9 in a row, you gotta tip your cap to Georges St. Pierre. The runner-up, obvious. Now this one's obvious. Kamaru Usman. He currently has a streak of 5 straight title defenses, and all of the title defenses have been against the top of the division. We got Masvidal twice, we got Covington twice, we got Gilbert Burns, and we have Hamzat coming soon. So stay tuned for that. Hamzat will eventually be the welterweight GOAT. We all know this, but you know, let's take a step back. Now, since the welterweight division has been so stacked over the years, I have to have multiple runner-ups. So runner-up number 1, Kamaru Usman. Runner-up number 2, Matt Hughes. A lot of people sleep on Matt Hughes because GSP got the better of him, but if you actually look at what he's done, complete savage. Runner-up, Tyron Woodley. He had 3 title defenses, pretty solid. And then, of course, the runner times 4 up is Robbie Lawler, strictly because of his absolute slobber knocker he had with Rory McDonald. So that's my welterweight stuff. Men's middleweight, it doesn't really come close at the moment. We have Anderson Silva as the men's middleweight GOAT, and Israel Adesanya is coming up the rear. I didn't mean it like that. Anderson Silva racked up 10 title defenses, beating out GSP's 9, and he did it all in a row, and each one was pretty dominating. Yeah, he had some couple snooze fests, you know, he had the Damian Maia fight, but for the most part, every single Anderson Silva fight was very entertaining. Israel Adesanya, the reason he's not the GOAT, he only really has 2 or 3 title defenses, so he has to rack up more of those, and maybe just clear out the division a couple more times. Anderson Silva did it like 3 times over, so he has some catching up to do. And of course, you gotta include Chris Weidman when you're talking about best middleweights of all time. He's the one that defeated Anderson Silva. He also defeated Lyoto Machida. You gotta include Chris Weidman. Men's light heavyweight, another self-explanatory one. Of course, the GOAT is the undefeated Jon Jones. He won so many in a row at the UFC. He's like, you know what? Let's just get him for picograms of steroids. That'll show him. So once he vacated the belt, Daniel Cormier stepped in. 3 title defenses. That's why Daniel Cormier is the runner-up here. And then Jon Jones starched him in 2 fights. There's a pretty big gap between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier, but that gap can be a little shorter if no steroids were involved. Now, the light heavyweight division before Jon Jones entered it was pretty poppin', so that's why the runner-up is Chuck Liddell. He had 4 title defenses, and in each one, it was dominating fashion. And the runner-up is Tito Ortiz. He's the one in the very beginning of the UFC that had a 5-fight title streak, and he was dominating the light heavyweight division back in the day. And before him was Frank Shamrock. So you know what? Frank Shamrock is the runner-up. Screw it. Okay, men's heavyweight. I do have some spicy takes. So the men's heavyweight GOAT? Well, what was the heavyweight GOAT matchup? Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. We were under the impression that the winner of that would be the heavyweight GOAT. And what happened? Stipe defeated Daniel Cormier. Therefore, Stipe is the heavyweight GOAT. I'm just doing what the press said was the thing. Stipe Miocic is the heavyweight GOAT. I got the runner-up, not Francis Ngannou. The runner-up is Cain Velasquez. So, in Cain Velasquez's prime, he was the cardio king. He was one of the first heavyweights to truly have an infinite gas tank. He would tire opponents out. He would wrestle them. He would grapple them. He would put them in the clinch, and he would just basically outlast his opponents. The only reason he lost is because he went to Mexico City, and in Mexico City the altitude is high, and he lost because he couldn't breathe. Poor guy couldn't breathe. Runner-up, of course. Now I gotta put Francis Ngannou. He's utterly dominant, and every time you step in the octagon, you don't even know what you're gonna get anymore. At first you thought it was gonna be knockouts. Now you get wrestling. What's next? Jiu-jitsu? What's next? A submission? Good luck with Francis Ngannou. He's gonna probably be the heavyweight GOAT in the future. Give him like maybe 1 or 2 more years, maybe 3 title defenses, and he's the heavyweight GOAT. Runner-up. Well, the guy that started it all, Brock Lesnar. No, he wasn't the first heavyweight champ, but he's the one that got the UFC basically on the map right before Ronda Rousey, right before Conor McGregor. It was Brock Lesnar, so I'm just gonna throw Brock Lesnar in there. His fight against Shane Corwin. His fight against Shane Corwin was one of the best heavyweight fights I've ever seen in my life. So for that reason, Brock Lesnar, here's some props, bro. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Finn's Chats. I hope you enjoy this one. This is just my GOAT list, you know, just me debating, speaking off the cuff, right off the top of the dome. Make sure you leave a like, comment down below any hot takes you have, and if you disagree with any of mine. So make sure you have a great day. Savage.